on your face, you big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, singing, we will love you. It's true, Mr. Miles. Frank Sinatra and Freddie Mercury were man-on-man lovers. Buddy, you're a young man, hard man, shouted in the street, gonna take on the world someday. You got blood on your face, you big disgrace, waving your banner all over the place, singing, we will love you. You son of a bitch, anti-tracker! You take that back! You take that back right now! He said that Frank Sinatra and Freddie Mercury were not man-on-man lovers.
It's the anti-checker.
We will return to your scheduled programming shortly, or we are currently experiencing technical difficulties.
Hello, world.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky!
Hey guys, Michael J. Crawford, the Anti-Checker here, and yes, I am wearing a official Star Trek uniform. Look, rank pips and everything. Kind of testing out this green screen. This shirt is not the shirt that came with the uniform. The shirt that came with the uniform was way too bright red, so I got something else that I think works, although this is the only thing that is like doesn't look right. However, the green screen's working pretty good. You can see it's actually very, very nice, and so Thomas and I are gonna, Mr. Miles and I don't know why I get you guys confused sometimes, are gonna be using the green screen for some future projects. Anyway, so speaking of Thomas, as usual, Thomas is first and says, Bird sings better than fighting. He certainly does.
Sir, we are being hailed. On screen. What is your problem?
I am Lore.
Do you need help?
I have a YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is Lore Reloaded.
Let me guess, the rubber band broke, right?
I make YouTube go.
There we go. I love that one. So, yes, a absolute classic for sure. Anyway, a couple of things that I do want to talk about real quick.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
We of the Free Kurdistan Republic believe in fair play. Obviously, the Kurogans do not. Witness, if you will, the hero of Kurdistan, Thomas Potts, in battle with the evil dictator BIRDOPREY. First glance, it just seems that Bird narrowly escaped with his life. However, secret recordings of the battle from BIRDOPREY's perspective show a very, very different story indeed.
God damn it. God damn it, stop shooting. That's meant me, stop shooting. My health, oh my god, my health is at 2. My health is at 2.
Did you catch it? Did you see it? Well, fortunately, we can zoom and enhance so that you can see that, of course, BIRDOPREY is attempting to hide his health gauge behind the icon of his bloated head, soaking in the blood of orphan children. However, we can still see the actual health gauge. And notice that it drops to 0. That's right. Kuroga is cheating. Mic drop. Okay, so that was obviously just poking a little fun at Bird, because it, and this is something, by the way, just so you guys know, Bird and I have been talking about it a little bit in Skype, because there's definitely a problem with this server. If you look at Bird's and yeah, I think you're right. The pips are a little bit off. They need to be a little closer. I was trying to eyeball it, but yeah, my neck isn't quite as wide as Avery Brooks, so didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. Anyway, so if you look at that footage, it's interesting because Thomas knocks his health down to 33, and then immediately it jumps back up to 67. Then it drops down to 0, and then he starts to heal from 0 using the standard healing in the game, where if you don't take damage for a period of time, your health slowly goes up. But if your health hits 0, you should be dead. So there's definitely something weird going on with the server. Now, in all seriousness, for a minute, let me you know, all joking aside, I don't think for a minute that BIRDOPREY 5 is cheating. All right, I don't. I think that there's something wrong with the server, and it just happens to be favoring Kuroga right now, because the fact that basically nobody on Turtistan, and Thomas knows this, and I don't know if Chris is here, but he knows this too, but on the Turtistan side, every single time we get killed, we end up having to exit the game completely and then reload the game and go back in order to respawn. We can't just go to the respawn menu like Bird did in all the times that Thomas killed him today during his stream. Further, it seems like at random, for some reason, Kurogan's become unkillable. So we need to figure out what to do. So if you're playing in the server, I urge you to go to antitracker.com, BIRDOPREY, put a poll on the server just a few minutes ago to try and get your guys' opinion on what we should do. Basically, there's only a couple of options, honestly. We can either just keep playing with all the bugs and continue them. Thank you so much. Put €2.29, whatever those are, into the and says, how you doing? Hey, very good, continuum, and thank you, my friend. I just put into the chat, well, no, I should have put into the chat, but it didn't look like it went. There, the link to the poll. If you're a player on the Space Engineer server, please go to that link, take the survey, because we want to know what you guys want, honestly. And feel free to leave a comment. All right, so now to the normal festivities. And you see Auntie is on the view screen there for no reason. Thomas was first. Cinnabon says first, but you were second. Alexander says third, quite correct. And hello, I assume you mean hello. Bradley says up. Alexander says hello. JPRPH1 says like. Thank you, my friend. Multi-Gunman says, how's it going? Hanging in there, my friend. It's been a rough day, I'll be honest with you. And I mean, this is probably going to not be a long live stream. I hate saying that all the time lately, but it's, you know, I got to do what I got to do with the leg. And sometimes it stops me from being able to function. Other times it doesn't. Today, it's been really hurting. Multi-Gunman says, stolen Kurogan green screen. Actually, no, this is definitely not Kurogan tech, because it works. Mike Richards is here from Columbus, Ohio. Hey, Mike, and there's Thomas's super chat again. Thank you. Rocksalt says first to unsubscribe. Why are you unsubscribing? And BIRDOPREY puts $5 in, says Kurogans are protected by some garbage. He's lying. I don't know why you're unsubscribing, but thank you. Bradley is laughing. Sci-Fi says this better be good. I left mead for you, jerk. Hey, I appreciate that. I really do, because of course on Wednesdays I'm on mead. So thank you for coming over here. Tom's calling me a nerd. People laughing. But you guys don't like that. I think this is a nice jacket. Jeez, one bunch of jerks around here. Josh says, down with the evil turret. Damn it! Those evil Kurogans trying to brainwash. Yeah, they do that a lot. Thomas calling me a nerd. Surf says, the UN has declared population control is the answer to global warming. It is the opposite. We need more minds to create tech for climate modification. The first example, when man created fire. And Multi Gunman says, the anti-beagle screen, big screen, I approve, yes. And Sci-Fi Nation also puts a couple of bucks in, says we need anti-Tucker crash, an anti-Tucker crashes video, number 26. But you see, that's the problem. Unlike Bird of Prey, I know how to fly ships, so I don't crash.
The toast and eggs are really good, but there seems to be something missing. Yeah, that's what you're having for breakfast? That simply won't do. Follow me instead. What kind of place are you taking us to? A place that will introduce you to Frosted Fruity Hulls. Not only does it have 4 unique fruity flavors, but it also has a glazed frost that makes it extra yummy.
How do they get so deliciously frosty?
The frostiness of Frosted Fruity Hulls, of course, comes from this hull. Part of a complete nutritious breakfast.
I do love me some Frosty Fruity Hulls. That. All right. And so, Roxanne says, which lasts and lives longer, Bird, Captain Ship, or Jeffrey Epstein in jail? Now, come on now, Roxanne. That's kind of bad taste. I'm just going to read the stuff addressed to me right now because I'm so far behind. The FCC might fine you for that. What, for wearing this shirt? I doubt it. Mr. Miles says, the video is close to being done. I need to throw in things for the last minute of the video, sound effects, do some fine tuning. The video is already a gigabyte in size. Very cool. Thank you, Mr. Miles. I know you've been working hard on it. I think it's going to be an awesome video. I really do. Sci-Fi says, you honorless patak. Why am I an honorless patak? I'm not the one cheating. Mr. Miles says, if you adjust the shutter settings on your camera, it will help reduce the green screen bleed through. Yeah, I know. I haven't tweaked much yet. I just did a couple of basic settings, but I think that just the base test on it, it works pretty good. And of course, you know, we'll be messing with that in the future. Nice coat. Is it cold in Tennessee? Actually, it's not particularly cold tonight, and I am baking right now because I am way too layered up. But I wanted to test this out, see how it looked. Now, the shoulders are a little weird. They kind of bunch up, so I actually got some shoulder pads to fill them out. I'm hoping that takes care of that. We'll find out. Those should arrive tomorrow. And Continue says, how are you? I'm okay, Continue. I mean, I'm hurting a lot, but I don't know why. I shouldn't be, but I'm cautiously optimistic long term. I know why you couldn't kill Bird in that video. How do you kill that which has no life? Very true. Very true. And so here's Bird of Prey's $5. Says, Kurogans are protected by the divine will of God. We are the chosen people. It is his will Kuroga succeed. Also, feed Auntie. Give her the good stuff. All right, you got it. Although you could see she's enjoying the heck out of that ham bone right now. But then, yeah, I get... Yes, Auntie. Yes. Here you go. There you go. There. She is now extra happy. So thank you, Bird of Prey. I do appreciate it. Also, you look like a tool. Right back at you, Bird. At least I'm not lying in a bed with a green pillow. Let's see. I'm not crazy about the new green screen because that big 40-pound melon of yours is blocking my view of Auntie. Wow, Darren. You're just a jerk. Oh, you're talking about the emergency broadcast tone. Well, I don't know. I downloaded that off of YouTube, so hopefully I won't get in trouble for it. But even so, I wouldn't get fined by the FCC because at worst I would get a warning for violation of terms of service from Google. However, and the other thing is that the emergency broadcast tone is just that, for broadcast. This is not a broadcast. See. Have you considered growing a new leg? I would love to grow a new leg. Show me how, and I will be more than happy to do that. Tom says, it took 4 Kurogans, including 2 of the best SE players, to take down my tower, which you said isn't going to work well in this round. Well, that's good. That's the best news I've heard all day. And Sci-Fi Nation with the other $2 in there says we need an anti-tracker crashes vid, except I never crash. That's the problem. So yeah, sorry. I see. I know how to fly. Alexander says, when will we get a video about MCU Ant-made jeans? Well, as soon as you pay me $150,000 to produce it. Surf says, Enter, I was going to make a video about how you are wrong about the Romulan Star Empire reduced to 2 planets, but you will never admit to defeat, so I abstain. Well, here's the problem, Surf. If you want to prove me wrong, all you got to do is show me in the original series some piece of evidence that the Romulan Empire was larger than 2 planets. That's all you got to do. However, the problem is that during the original series, the Romulan Star Empire was only 2 planets. It's stated by Kirk, the neutral zone is much smaller than it is in later iterations, and that can be demonstrated, by the way. So the neutral zone has clearly moved and changed shape over the years. So the only real piece of evidence that people have been offering is that the map is not complete. Well, that's technically true. However, like I said, it's supported by dialogue and the actual events of the Romulan-based episodes. Thomas says, I lost track of how many times BIRDOPREY died. Yeah, it's hard to keep track. When was the last time you went on a quest with your dwarf friends? Funny. Darren says, why am I a jerk? I complimented your attire and asked you about the weather. 40-pound melon. 40-pound melon. Tubin says that the green screen's pretty good. Yeah, this is a really nice green screen, actually. I know when I move like that, because the camera hasn't been tweaked, it bleeds through. But this is actually a very solid green screen. Like if I actually go in and turn off the green screen effect, you can see it is very, very flat, which is what you want for a green screen. Let's see. Alexander says, Asian Muslim life born in the USSR is the best choice. I know it is. I know it is, at least for you. Tom says, I got one of those uniform jackets at the experience in Vegas many years ago. I bought the Admiral Pips. Very nice. And Sci-Fi Nation's with $5. Thank you so much, Sci-Fi. Says, Anti-Trigger, only a Nancy boomer like you can't fill out a TNG uniform coat properly. Not a Sci-Fi Nation wants to see Bird crash, jerk, or some other chat video. Let's see. Well, Bird crashes in, is it this one? Yes. Well, no, that's in, well, we can do this one, I think. This one we get to see Bird explode. But I think we'll do this one. This one is more fun.
But here's what we're gonna do. It's a beautiful day in Karoga. Of course, it's time to protect the Karoga homelands. Ah, shit! We're already taking shots. What the hell was that? What? Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Who shot me? Who shot me? Where's the body? There it is. God damn it. God damn it. It would help if it was telling me where people were shooting from. Fuck! For Alamarine, if you can see Alamarine, you'll come with me. Alamarine.
Give me just a second, guys, because Thomas just sent me something that I think you will enjoy, but I need to move a couple things around on the screen in order to make that work. Go to... And thank you, Thomas. I know it's you put in a thing that you can't listen because you forgot your headphones, but I thank you anyway. All right, and let's bring this up. So this is another fine excerpt from one of BIRDOPREY's streams. So let's bring that up. I don't know why this is there. All right, and let's take a look.
And this thing actually moves pretty damn well for a spaceship. Now, not all the engines were in the final locations because I never quite finished, and I didn't add any weapons. But yeah, this would have been the ship that would have taken on the Goliath had the battle ever happened.
Oh, there you go.
On the Goliath had the battle ever happened.
The timing with that was so perfect. Oh, I forgot about that.
The Goliath had the battle ever happened.
There we go. So congratulations, Bird, on your fine piloting skills. All right, so where was I? Man, chat got messed up. I lost track how many times. I already read that. Drawer friends read that. Why you a jerk read that. New green screen's pretty good. Thank you, Asian Muslim wife. Got these uniform jackets. Obviously, I took the jacket off because I'm getting too hot. And there's Sci-Fi Nation calling me a Nancy Boomer like me. First of all, I'm not a boomer, but whatever. And Thomas says, yeah, I can't listen because I forgot my headphones. See everyone tomorrow down at Karoga. Thank you, my friend. 30-pound buck. Okay. Everybody's melon's about 40 pounds. I don't know that, Naren, but even if true, I know you didn't mean it in a nice way. And Alexander says, nah, I'm watching all those episodes of the Lone Ranger series from 1949. I never watched it.
I got him! Don't get cocky.
Not Ryan Johnson throws $10 into the chat, says take the money and run, or give it to Mr. Miles. We'll see. Depends on how much we get paid this month. I don't believe Ed Trigger is a boomer. I think he's a Gen Xer like me. That is correct. I was born in 1968. Thank you, Darren. Thomas says, Bird crash video on Twitter. Yes, I got it. Thank you, my friend. And let's see. Asteroid came out of nowhere, says Bird. Yeah, boy, it sure did, didn't it? Maybe, it helps, Bird, if you're flying at maximum speed to look in the general direction that you're moving. That was your big mistake there. Mr. Miles says, Antrick, you're a boomer. I am definitely not a boomer. And then Mr. Miles says, top chat. Yeah, I am set to top chat. Thank you. I'm switching it to live chat. I probably missed some stuff because of that. Thank you for that. Darren says, I'm always nice to you. Yeah, sure you are. Sure you are, Darren. Funny thing is, yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking a little bit about some of the stuff you said in your video where you called my video a meandering mess, but I really think that you were a little, I think you could have conceded a couple of points and it would have made sense. For example, you got on me about the fact that I said every ship was referred to as a warbird, and then you pointed out a couple of ships that weren't. But the ships you pointed out were freaking shuttlecrafts, all right? If I said every Federation ship is a starship, obviously I'm not talking about shuttlecrafts or freighters. I'm talking about their actual military fleet. And that's what we see in the Romulans. Every Romulan, military vessel of significance is referred to as a warbird of some kind, which is weird. So I think that warbird is a generic term for military vessel, like starship is for the Federation. Commander Shutter says, whoa, you trimmed. I'm going to have to lose my goatee of 2 years since I'm interviewing for state patrol. We might have a funeral for it. Oh, that sucks, man. Yeah, I trimmed it because Mrs. Antchecker prefers it a little neater. And so this is a decent length. Yeah, plus if I'm going to wear, you know, wrong one. If I'm going to wear the pips of the Federation, you know, I need to be within their hair code. The big question is, does BIRDOPREY still have a driver's license after those crashes? I believe he does not. Luke is in the house, says, is a boomer the old new kids insult? Seems like that word is used too much these days. I don't know. You know, I heard, the first time I heard someone using that, a boomer derogatory term was actually during Mead last night. I didn't know that was a thing now. So, whatever. Andrew dressed like Run DMC, but isn't a boomer. Uh-huh. How am I dressed like Run DMC? Wow, you have a weird memory, my friend. Alexander says, I'm Gen X of the last month, December 1979. Well, okay. February 76 for sci-fi. Well, I'm April of 68. Resolute says, you're definitely a boomer. I am definitely not a boomer. My mom was actually a very early baby boomer. My dad was late in the greatest generation. Starfleet shuttles are just glorified space rowboats. Changed my mind. Well, Starfleet shuttles, most of them actually have warp drive and weapons. Let's see. Darren says, you said the Warbird was the Romulan equivalent of Starship. I showed you Romulan science vessel, scout ship, and runabout, all of which would be starships in Starfleet. I've never heard a runabout. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think runabouts are considered starships. I really don't. Anyway, so I think you're getting rather pedantic on that, Darren. You know that most ships in the Romulan fleet are referred to as warbirds, and you're getting pedantic over it for no reason whatsoever. That's, I mean, it's really, that's just a pointless fight to have. Because, you know, like you said in one of your videos, you know, choose the hill to die on, you're picking the wrong one. Because basically, you're just trying to say, there's a couple of ships that aren't. So that doesn't change my point. My point is that Warbird is not a specific type of ship. It's a general term, like we would say a naval vessel today, right? Or a starship in the Federation. It is an extraordinarily generic term. It is not a class or even type of vessel. It's just generally a Romulan military ship. I think the reason why kids think everybody old are boomers is because we tend to call all people under 30 millennials. Well, that's true too. Enter, the only thing I call a boomer is the big bad guys from Gears of War. Well, I don't play Gears, so I assume that there's something called a boomer. Yes, I know Mr. Miles is crazy. He is a millennial. Watch out for Mr. Miles. Josh says, if you play BIRDOPREY singing backwards, you hear Bird praying to his god, Harvey Cthulhu. That's actually true. Sci-Fi Nation, I trigger in your old Rational Roundtable videos. What are you talking about, Sci-Fi Nation? Oh, that I was dressed up like Run DMC in some old Rational Roundtable video, and so, okay, whatever. Alexander says, the knee is going better. No, unfortunately, the knee is actually getting a little bit worse, and that's a problem. And so we're on November 22nd. I now have an appointment with a. Now I'm trying to remember I can't remember the type of specialist it is, but it's not a neurologist, but it's something even more specific. It's basically, but this doctor is going to basically run a nerve test to see if the nerves between my quadriceps and my spine are damaged, because that's the big fear right now. Surf says, Anti-Dragon 1968 is a flower child. That is actually incorrect. A flower child is not a generational thing. A flower child refers specifically to people who moved generally to the West Coast as a part of the hippie movement in the 60s. But a flower child could have been a person of many different ages. Resolute says that's exactly what a boomer would say. Okay. Sci-Fi says, Antrekker as Thunderfoot. Okay, me as Thunderfoot. Now you're confusing the heck out of me. Sci-Fi, you got to give me a complete statement, because just saying Antrekker as Thunderfoot tells me nothing. I mean, I know who Thunderfoot is. It's someone that I do not have a whole lot of respect for, but I don't understand your point. Darren says, runabouts are considered starships. Unlike shuttles, runabouts in Starfleet have names that begin with USS. That doesn't make them... Has anybody called a runabout a starship? I'm genuinely... I don't know. You know, I will eventually rewatch all of Deep Space Nine. I've watched a little bit of it in the last few days, but I don't... Has anybody ever referred to a runabout as a starship? Like, when they get on the Rio Grande, do they say the Starship Rio Grande, or do they say the Runabout Rio Grande? Because guess what? When they're on the freaking Enterprise, they don't say we're on the Galaxy class Enterprise. They say we're on the Starship Enterprise. So why is it that on runabouts they refer to themselves as being on a runabout as opposed to being on a starship, like they do with every starship? And nowhere in canon does it say that just because it says USS makes it a starship. Because USS in canon stands for United Spaceship. Kirk said that, by the way, if you didn't know. Boomer has nothing to do with age. Yes, actually it does, Resolute. The boomer is a particular generation, the generation in between the greatest generation and Gen X. However, if you're saying the boomer derogatory term has nothing to do with their age, then it's pointless. It means nothing to me. Call me a boomer, I don't give a crap, because that just tells me that you're an idiot. The specific thing you said was that Romulans use Warbird the way Starfleet uses Starship. Yes, and I stand by that statement. That it's a generic term. I mean, because first of all, you can say like you would argue, I'm sure, that the Romulan intruder, as you like to call it, but the bird of prey from Balance of Terror is a warbird. The cloaked vessel from Minefield, which completely destroy your theory anyway, so I don't know why you're even fighting for it, were warbirds. The holographic ship was a warbird, and the Derridex class are called warbirds. So tell me why it's not a generic term if that wide array of ships are all warbirds. Runabouts are long-range shuttles to me. People claim that these aren't based on a starship, so they're not shuttles. They're based on space stations. So, well, to me, runabouts are space. You know, they're spacefaring vessels, but that doesn't make them. You know, and that's the problem. People. You know, and I know we fight about this. We're nerds. That's cool. But to me, a runabout is not a starship, but it's not really a shuttle because it's capable of sustained missions, right? You could take a runabout out for weeks at a time, as opposed to a shuttle is really not designed to do anything but transport someone from one location directly to another that both have supplies for the person. Runabouts have crew quarters. They have, you know, food replicators, all, you know, everything you would need to survive long term. That being said, they've never referred to a runabout as a starship, and all the way back to the original series, which of course I played that clip in one of my videos recently, starship is considered a step above spaceship. So starship captains are considered the elite. But yeah. And BIRDOPREY put the link to the Space Engineers poll. Please go there if you are a player. Answer, why are you wearing 4 dammits? Why am I wearing 4 dammits? Are you talking about the pips? Because I'm a captain. Well, I mean, I should have gotten Admiral pips, honestly. A gynecologist says, I don't even know why that. Mr. Miles says, I'm a flower child, very special, only legal in some states, flower child. Well, you know, yeah. Nerve conduction test, fun, not. Thanks, Bert. Yeah, I'm sure you've had them, actually, and I have no idea what they're like. I'm probably not going to enjoy it. Resolute says, FYI, if there's no nerve damage, that test's going to hurt like hell. Thank you for making me feel better about it, Resolute. Upgrade the RAM. Now everything runs great, except Space Engineers might be time for a new PC altogether. Ah, that sucks. Mr. Miles says, your hair looks like Thunderfoot's hair. I think that's the point of the reference. Well, if so, okay. Yeah, my hair now is probably about the length of Thunderfoot's hair was back when I used to comment on him. I have not seen him in years because, quite frankly, I don't give a crap about him. Luke says, at best, I see them as space boats. They can tug, patrol, minesweep, or lay like coastal boat. Fair point. Trolita is in the house, says, oh, haven't seen you in a while, Trolita. Welcome back. Says, that's a great green screen, looking sharp, Mr. Ante. Thank you, Trolita, and welcome. Alexander says, the MCU Aunt May naked starship. That would be a starship. Wow. Yep. BIRDOPREY, what Oberth captain says Starship Zebra? Or Zerba? I have no idea. But not sure what your point there. Weren't boomers part of Battlestar Galactica? Well, there was, yeah, technically. Josh says, screen looking good, nice beagle. Warp sleds don't seem to be starships either, but adding warp seems to be like a definitive requirement for it to be a starship. Well, yeah, a starship clearly is a warp-capable vessel, but I think that to go to a starship, I don't know, I'm sure that there's somewhere in some technical manual somewhere a reason like what differentiates a starship from just a regular spaceship. But runabouts don't seem to fall into that, and shuttles clearly do not. Mr. Ante is a fellow Gen X. Nobody talks about us. Yeah, I know. We're the forgotten generation. Which that's kind of okay with me. Darren says, even if you throw out the Romulan runabout, would Starfleet consider the Oberth a starship? That's basically what the Romulan science vessel was. I would beg to disagree with you on that, Darren, because that science vessel you showed the picture of, now maybe I'd have to go back and re-look at your video, but it looked like a pretty small ship, smaller than an Oberth. However, even if that science vessel was not a warbird, first of all, do they ever refer to, I genuinely don't know, because I don't even know what episode that science vessel's from. Do they ever refer to its ship class or type at all? If they don't, then you're basically just arguing from ignorance. We don't know what it's called, but it wouldn't be warbird. No, that's a load of crap. If they don't call it by something other than warbird, then you have nothing to stand on with that science vessel. However, boy, that is a horrible picture, Mr. Miles, and I think I look way better than Thunderfoot there. But the so I throw the ball at you, Darren. Do they call that ship by a class or type in the episode? BIRDOPREY says, "Oh, thanks, poop speech alert." Okay, not sure why. Oh, because Trolita's here. And Josh saying hi to Trolita, and Trolita's begging for no poop speech. You know that's not going to happen. Doc says, I'm in a weirdly good mood tonight, and I'm here to share it with you all. Well, I am glad to hear that, Doc, because I am hurting like a SOB, and I am definitely not looking forward now to my nerve conduction test that Bird and whoever else was telling me it's going to hurt. And yeah. Multi-Gunman says, according to Wikipedia, Baby Boomer was born 1946 to 64. Yes, I know I'm on the early side of Gen X. Gen X was from 65 to 80, and Millennials were born 81 to 96. Very true. So, like, my daughter is actually at the tail end of Millennials. She was born in 95. My son is whatever comes after Millennials. He was born in 2000. Captain MKG just joined Pips Energy Trigger. Yes. Well, you missed it earlier. I was actually wearing the jacket with it earlier, but it's just way too hot to wear that for an extended period of time. I'm discovering very, very quickly. Let's see. Andrew, your beard shrank. Well, yeah, I trimmed it. That does happen from time to time. Lone Ranger 2099 would be a great concept. I don't know, Alexander. I mean, are you saying like do a Lone Ranger set in the year 2099? Because why would we have Texas Rangers? What would they do? Would they ride space horses? I don't know. What are you going to do with it? Darren says, you said every Romulan ship we see is called a warbird. I showed you 3 that weren't. It really is that simple. Did they, see, so now you're dodging the question, Darren. Did they call it something else? Because you, so basically what you're trying to say is, like, for example, they never say that, oh, pick one. let's say they never called, some ship from some episode a starship. Therefore, it's not a starship, right? But they didn't call it anything else, right? It just sat there. So, if they don't refer to it as something other than a warbird, then you have nothing to stand on. You're just saying that because that line wasn't said, that's your proof, in which case you have absolutely nothing. Luke says, I know why you subconsciously hate Thunderfoot. He's tall, English scientist. It makes you think of another English scientist. Actually, no. Honestly, and the funny thing is because he's even a tall English scientist who is an atheist, right? Both, him and Dr. Alex have all that in common. That being said, Dr. Alex is not a dick. Thunderfoot is. At least he was. I don't know. Like I said, I've not tuned into a Thunderfoot video in at least 3 or 4 years, so I don't know what he's been doing lately. Generation Z is after millennials. That's an unoriginal name. Just saying. Let's see. Want to help me start a petition to get rid of the turd avatar? Yes, we must end this bigotry. Not everybody poops. Wait, Trelita, who doesn't poop? I'm all for ending bigotry, so tell me, who doesn't poop? As soon as you show me a person that does not poop, I will be more than happy to get rid of the turd avatar for good, because I was under the impression that absolutely everybody poops. So tell me, where is a person who does not poop? Josh says, we already got Texas Rangers in space back in the 80s in the cartoon Galaxy Rangers. I don't think I ever saw that. 1980s. I don't think I saw Galaxy Rangers, so that doesn't ring a bell. Darren says, I think you guys got sore that you made such a bold, unresearched statement, and I got you. No, I don't think you got me at all, because, again, you're not defending your position at all. I asked you to tell me what it is if it's not a warbird, and you have come up with 0, which means it probably is a warbird, and you know it. You're just trying to say that because that line doesn't exist, that they actually address it as a warbird, that means it's not a warbird. That is not, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, as they say. So again, Darren, put up or shut up. You tell me what it is, and I will take back some of what I said. 49 watching with 24 likes and 0 dislikes. Not a bad ratio, though. Yeah, I know it's difficult for people to hit that like button. It really is. Conan 2099 could be a great concept. I disagree. Conan belongs in the ancient world, not in a futuristic world. A sword, swords are cool, but except for lightsabers, swords don't generally belong in science fiction. Burnham doesn't poop. Well, you might be right about that, Mr. Miles, but Burnham also is not a person. Okay, no. Okay, Auntie, down. That's going to hurt. You can't do that. Let's see. And there, Auntie knocked over this. Hold on. All right. Auntie, you're going to get in trouble in a minute here. I'll put this over here so you can't get to it anymore. And don't you jump up on my leg again. Pooping is a social construct. I would disagree with you on that. Kim Jong-un does not poop. I need to see sources on that. BIRDOPREY says, I didn't poop for 6 months. Yeah, but you, maybe not, but that was, that's only a 6-month period, not permanently. Would a person who does not be someone who has a colostomy bag? No, because they still do. They just don't through the same orifice as the rest of us. So Thunderfoot is an even bigger dick than he was a couple of years ago. Well, then I'm glad I haven't watched him lately. Captain says, yeah, I knew what you meant, Captain, but no, I think a colostomy bag does not make it so, it just says, besides, person who has a colostomy bag generally did poop in the past. BIRDOPREY doesn't poop, he only gelojas. Well, no, geloja is only one form of excrement. The other form is his poop. And BIRDOPREY, we know, poops the bed on a pretty regular basis when he's flying ships. Luke says, on that we agree. He is a dick with believers, though aside from that, he seems okay as an individual, i.e. he's not directly when he's not directly confronted with his own bias. Yes, but you see, here's the thing. That's, like, for example, I know that I can be a little snarky with Darren, but I think Darren doesn't think that I'm a complete and utter dick, right? And at least I hope not. But the Thunderfoot, man, I mean, he basically questions the basic functioning intellectual ability of anybody who disagrees with him in such a derogatory way that, Doc says everybody poops is a pro-poops propaganda, and why does God need a warbird? Well, I don't think God needs a warbird. Sci-Fi Nation put $3 into the chat, says pick one. All right, I will pick one. I don't know which one I'm going to pick, so I'm going to close my eyes and hit a button, and then I'm going to close my eyes and hit another button.
I am Lore Reloaded, here to get this entire thing started here for Lore.
You just tripped over something that was so obvious.
Josh says The Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers from 1986. I don't remember that. In 1986, I graduated high school, was in the Army, so that's probably why I never saw it. Darren says, no, you said all Romulan ships are called warbirds. Nobody referred to those Romulan ships as warbirds, so you're wrong. It's really that simple. No, you see, you need to show me that it is something else before you can claim that it isn't something. Because if it's not a warbird, then what is it? If every... And Josh Street puts 99 cents in. Thank you so much, Josh. I do appreciate it. So, Darren, here's all I'm asking you is that, okay, let's say that you have 10 ships that are, I don't know how many there are, but let's say that over the course of Star Trek, we've seen a total of 10 Romulan ships. 7 of those 10 Romulan ships are called warbirds in dialogue. The other 3 aren't called anything. I think it's a logical leap to suggest that all Romulan ships are warbirds. Unless you want to suggest that only those 3 ships are not warbirds, fine. Warbirds still a very generic statement, and my argument that the term warbird is about as generic as saying starship still stands. You cannot demonstrate that warbird is not a generic term, and that was the whole point of that statement. And so if you want to say, oh, but your entire argument is discredited because I found one ship that they didn't call by name a warbird? What's the point of that, Darren? You're just being pedantic. What is the point of that argument? That point is just to be argumentative. You're not making a point. You're simply trying to say that your point was not 100% precise. However, everything you said was true. It's just not 100% precise. You could have said it in a more precise way. Well, I apologize, Darren, that I didn't say it as precisely as you would like. However, the statement still is true. Commander Sutter says, hey, perhaps all this confusion with warbirds, starships could be like what we here on Earth call military vessels. Russian ballistic subs are called boomers in NATO, but different in Russia. Well, here's the thing, Commander Sutter. In a way, you're talking, like if you say naval vessel, right? If I say United States naval vessel, then you know what I'm talking about, right? You know I'm talking about pretty much any military vessel that belongs to the United States of America. And if I say Russian naval vessel, you know I'm talking about any military vessel belonging to the USSR back in the day. And Trolita puts in $10, says Shatner is the best captain, fights you. Why would I fight you on that, Trolita? I agree with you 100%. Well, actually, it's Kirk is the best captain. But Shatner was definitely the best. Kirk. Hey, get out of there. Don't you chew on that. You don't, if you have something in your mouth, I don't want you to get in trouble. Yeah, that's not food. I hope oh man, you better not have eaten that. All right, go. Anyway, but in the world of Trek, the generic term for a military vessel belonging to the United Federation of Planets, or specifically Starfleet, is a starship. The generic term for a military vessel belonging to the Romulan Star Empire is a warbird. Why is that so difficult for you, Darren? Why are you having a problem with that? Because it's proven out in the overwhelming abundance of canon. Yes, there are a couple of Romulan ships that are not directly called warbirds, but as I said, they're not called something else, and therefore you have no evidence that there's any Romulan ship that's not called a warbird. Commander Center says, dead people do not poop. Well, yeah, but dead people aren't people because they're dead. Alexander says, MCU Aunt May 2099 could be an amazing concept. On that one, I'm going to disagree. Because in 2099, Aunt May naked will be a rotting corpse and would look a lot like the old lady from The Shining. BIRDOPREY says, a human centipede sewn into a circle doesn't poop. Well, it does. It just poops into itself over and over. That's really disgusting. Tim says, what is this BS about warbirds? Well, I kind of... Darren wants to be pedantic about it, and I kind of laid it out already. Angry Mango, I think you're new. Welcome. Dead people do poop. That's why they have to put a cork in their ass. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Vinny of Hermes says, beautiful women do not defecate. You know, I know you want to believe that, but yeah, they do. Antrigger, you can't prove Romulan Star Empire only had 2 planets, so how can you prove all Romulan Star Empire ships are not warbirds? You use semantics to support your stance. Well, no. When I talked about the Romulan Star Empire having only 2 planets, first of all, I do specifically state that is only during the original series era, right? During the original series era, yes, the Romulan Star Empire was only 2 planets. That is supported by dialogue and is supported by action in 2 episodes. Balance of Terror and the Enterprise Incident, which is Darren's favorite episode, so he should know that by heart. However, in the if you look at the Romulans in Enterprise and the Romulans in Next Generation, the Romulan Star Empire was clearly larger than 2 planets. So what does that mean? Well, logically, there was a war with the Romulan Empire about 100 years ago. They were beaten down to 1 system, and then they expanded outwards sometime between the end of Star Trek VI and the beginning of TNG, and then they became a larger empire again. They may have expanded in a different direction than the Federation, which would also stand to reason because that might be why the Federation hasn't heard from them in a while. They were busy expanding in other directions that the Federation wouldn't care about. So as far as the warbird thing, now the problem is that there is no supporting evidence for Darren to suggest that there are any ships that are not called warbirds. Every Romulan ship that is called anything is called a warbird. That's the point. Darren says, who or what is Thunderfoot? Thunderfoot is a YouTube atheist. And then, like, after he got tired of arguing with Christians, he started arguing with feminists. I don't know what he's doing nowadays. This has devolved to poop discussion. I've been away too long, and I love you all. Well, we love you, Trolita, and I'm glad to have you back. I love Star Trek, but STD is a little turd. Yeah, Star Trek Discovery. I tell you, Discovery, it is what it is. Luke says, Darren's Wagner's logic. Not all human characters in Trek are specifically referred to as humans, therefore they're not humans. It's really that simple. Thank you, Luke. Thank you. That is exactly right. Not all human characters are referred to as humans, therefore they're not humans. That is Darren's argument. I don't think you're a dick. I just think you're overflowing with the milk of human kindness and grace. Now you're being a dick. I'm just kidding. Mr. Mouse says, whoa, and then the chat went crazy. Sorry for being so far behind. Thunderfoot is a great scientist, but crappy when it comes to opinions. You know, let me ask you something, Miles. Can you tell me something that Thunderfoot has discovered, or has invented, or has theorized? Because I've heard many people say what a great scientist Thunderfoot is. However, now, and I haven't seen any of his videos for the last couple of years, so maybe he's got a Nobel Prize since I stopped watching him. However, when I was watching him, his science videos were basically reproducing experiments that you could look up in any college-level science textbook. So why is he a great scientist? Sorry. I have a problem with that because I've heard a lot of people say what a great scientist Thunderfoot is, and I just got to call BS on that. Because he might be a good scientist, but I haven't seen any real evidence of it. I've just seen him recreate experiments that other people have done. Alexander says, Zorro 2099 would be a great concept. Why do you think that? I don't think taking a hero from a primitive era and putting him in a modern era or a futuristic era is necessarily going to always be a great concept. Zorro works great during the Spanish-American War, which is the whole point of the Zorro story. Down. Hello, Antragonal. Will you be Nerdrotic later on? If you mean on Nerdrotic, well, I want to get back on his show again. I hope so soon, but I haven't talked to Gary recently. So if you mean, am I going to morph into Nerderotic, that would be awesome. But I doubt it. King of the Void says, are you excited for the new female Zorro show? King of the Void, welcome. I don't know if I've seen you before. Your comment is the first I've heard of a new female Zorro show. And no, sounds like a horrible idea. Because I'm against gender bending both directions. I don't think you should take female characters and make them men. I don't think you should take male characters and make them female. Unless you're doing a complete, like something like I didn't like it at first. Some of the gender bends in the Battlestar Galactica reboot I was okay with. However, generally speaking, unless there's a reason to do it, I'm against it. Josh says, let Trolita pick, and Trolita put in a chat. So, Trolita, you can pick a super chat and a mega chat if you so choose, thanks to the generosity of Josh. Each of the Romulan ships I showed you were called something other than warbirds. One was a science vessel. A science vessel is not a class or type, well, it's a type, but it's using basically, I mean, that's like saying I could call a naval vessel a ship, right? I could call it a warship, right? Yes, but it's still a naval vessel. That's nothing that negates the idea of it being a warbird. One was a scout ship. Again, the Oberth is a bird of prey is a scout ship, at least in the Star Trek 3 era. So that doesn't mean anything. And the other was referred to as a shuttle. Well, in shuttles, we've already talked about a shuttle. I mean, come on, dude. Are you really going to get that pedantic to argue that a shuttle not being called a warbird invalidates my argument in any way, shape, or form? Because here's the problem, Darren. You're still not invalidating my argument at all. So that's the problem I hear. And no, Jaeger, thank you for the $5. No, I've not watched it yet. I do have it on my screen, but I have not watched it yet. Today was just too harsh of a day. I'm hoping to be able to relax. I have physical therapy tomorrow morning, and then I'm going to have to lie down for a while, and I'm hoping to watch it then, honestly. So that's my goal. If I can, we'll see. However, but Darren, here's the thing. All I want you to do is invalidate my argument that warbird is a generic term, like starship. You can point out that there may be random vessels within the Romulan Star Empire that are not called warbirds. That does not change the fact that warbird is a generic ship name, like starship, like naval vessel. It is not a specific class or type of vessel. It's an incredibly generic term. So can you invalidate that? If you can't, and you're just going to continue to argue that at the pedantic level that, oh, that was not 100% accurate because I said all ships and I shouldn't have said all, I should have said most, fine. But where's your point? You are not making an argument. You are simply being argumentative. You're being, and there's no point in that. If you want to make an argument, make an argument. An argument invalidates the point, not every little minutia of it. What you're trying to do is basically, I don't know what you're trying to do. I don't understand the point of it. Maybe you're just trying to yank my chain and get a rise out of me, in which case, whatever. But Darren, do you want to make a point, or are you just going to keep going round in circles about the warbirds thing? Because that wasn't, the point of that argument was not that 100% of all ships are warbirds. The point of it is that warbirds is a generic term. Please make a counterpoint to that, or shut up about it. Because what you're doing is stupid. It's not effective. It doesn't advance your position in any way, and it doesn't degrade my position in any way, except to say that I could have been a little more accurate with the way I phrased it. But that doesn't change my argument. Do you understand that, Darren? Because you don't seem to. You seem to think you've got this great thing here by saying that they didn't refer to a ship as a warbird, but how does that invalidate my argument? Because considering the wide variety of ships we have seen called warbirds, it doesn't invalidate the argument at all. Alexander says, the Romulan War anything is surely really powerful. The Romulan War anything is surely really powerful. Well, not necessarily, because the ship in Balance of Terror was actually quite underpowered. It had a great main gun, but that's it. Darren says, boomers are any submarine that carries intercontinental ballistic missiles. The U.S. has them too. Well, I don't know about what submariners call boomers. I don't care. Sorry. Because I'm not that it doesn't matter, but it's just not part of the argument. Would you call an Ober science vessel or a Nova class science vessel a starship? It doesn't matter what I would call them. Are they considered starships? If they, was the Grissom called the Starship Grissom? Or was it just called Grissom? But it doesn't matter, because here's the thing. Let's suppose, and actually, let's suppose hypothetically, and I don't remember I don't remember the details on the Ransom's ship, but let's say that neither the Oberth or the Nova class are ever referred to as a starship, and therefore you could argue that those ships are not starships because they're never referred to as starships. Fine. Does that change the fact that starship is a generic term? No, because starship still refers to the overwhelming majority of ships in the Federation fleet as far as large interplanetary vessels. It doesn't seem to matter if it is a cruiser or a battleship or anything in between, or a frigate or whatever. They don't really. I mean, everything we see in Star Trek is either. Well, I know that the Miranda class is considered a frigate or something like that by the time of the Dominion War. But yeah. And Trolliana puts another $5 in. Thank you so much. Says, I request that you play your favorite or your son's favorite. All right, I will. Give me just a couple minutes, Trolliana, and I'm going to get a little more caught up in the chat. When I get down to that $4.99 super chat, I will do so. Sci-Fi Sis says, hello there, sorry I'm late. That's okay. We're just getting pedantic about stupid things, which is what we nerds like to do for some reason. Mr. Londo says, weren't you arguing earlier that Romulan vessels were birds of prey? How did you come to the conclusion that Romulan vessels are warbirds? No, what I was arguing, Mr. Lundell, is that the ship that violated the neutral zone in the episode Balance of Terror was specifically, that ship was the Romulan bird of prey. That was that ship class. Now, what Darren was trying to argue that it was a warbird. However, warbird is not a ship class. It is a generic term for pretty much any military vessel in the Romulan Empire. Now, what Darren is trying to say, because I said all Romulan ships have been referred to as warbirds, that, but this shuttlecraft wasn't referred to as a warbird, therefore your argument is invalid. Which is a load of crap, because I can still point to at least 3 very different types of ships that were called warbirds. And if I include the Romulan intruder from Balance of Terror that he insists is a warbird, that makes 4. And by the way, if you include the D7s that we see in Enterprise Incident, that would make 5 completely different types of ships that are all called warbirds. And yet, he will not acknowledge that warbird is a generic term, or he's trying to just poke holes or just insist that there are certain Romulan ships that aren't called warbirds. I don't care about that. I don't know why he's arguing about it, and it seems pointless, but whatever. All right, let's move on. Alexander says, Hulk Hogan 2099. Alexander, you get the weirdest ideas. No, Hulk Hogan 2099 is not a brilliant idea. I'm sorry. Mr. Mouse says, Thunderfoot tried fighting with Trump supporters for a while, and then he said he was going to stick to the science stuff as much as possible. Yeah, well, he said that a few times. He said that back like 7 years ago that he was going to stick to science, and that lasted all about 2 weeks, because when he does science videos, his viewership drops like a freaking rock. People watch Thunderfoot because they like to watch the hate. And so, and that's what he's good at. Alexander says the Discovery Channel is fine. Yeah, I'm okay with the Discovery Channel, just not Star Trek Discovery. Admiral Brocode says, by the 24th century, the Roman Star Empire spread further in the Beta Quadrant when their expansion into the Alpha Quadrant was stopped by the Alliance. Agreed. And the Romulans helped to give birth to the Federation. Agree with that as well. Valor says, hey, and a beautiful woman who is just as kind as they are beautiful is a rare breed these days. Mrs. Antricker is proof of this. You are a lucky guy. You are 100% right about that. I am insanely lucky to have Mrs. Antricker. I do not deserve a wife as beautiful and graceful and kind as she is. Antricker, we all know that you are Magog of Morsak. Without the makeup. I'm not sure who Magog of Morsak is. I'm sure that it would not be flattering. Enter, he has discovered interesting relations in sodium-potassium reactions with water. He has demonstrated that a Kolmobik reaction is involved. Okay. So he actually discovered that, and that is important. Why? because we didn't know that sodium potassium reacts with water before. Nobody put sodium potassium in water before Thunderfoot? Okay. Tonto 2099 would be, no, that would be a racist concept. Bad idea. King of the Void says Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century? No. And Colum, how we say it, explosion. Well, if it's an explosion, I kind of doubt that Thunderfoot discovered that if you put sodium potassium in water, it explodes. I don't think Thunderfoot was the first person to put sodium potassium in water. I'm just saying. And I don't know anything. I don't know jack about chemistry. So, you know, maybe he did discover that. But it doesn't seem like it seems like, wow, really? Nobody figured out that if you put sodium potassium into water, it explodes? Really? Okay. This chat is being monitored by the ADL for poop speech. Uh-oh, I'm running. Nightbreeze says, good evening, Anti-Trigger. Hey, how you doing? And Jaeger says, part of the question about the 40K, I already answered that. And I am truly sorry, Jaeger. I know you've been really patient with me to watch it and give my opinion. I'm sorry that I haven't been able to. It's been a rough couple of months, and you know that. He's also worked on biomolecules on multiple equations. Well, working on something doesn't mean anything. I mean, I worked for Comcast. That doesn't mean I invented cable. Just saying. I didn't. I think Michael Burnham pushed off a cliff. $25.99 would be a good guess. Asian Muslim wife born in the USSR. $20.99 would be a great child. Well, no, except the USSR doesn't exist anymore, Alexander. That's the problem with that. Jaeger wants to see the Wahman. You got it, my friend. Let me bring up my handy dandy list because I can never remember. And super chat. Oh, well, I know that one. It's like number 1, I think.
Oh, no, please.
No,
I don't want to.
I'm a better female character than you.
You would be if you didn't spend all your time with that temper tantrum meme guy.
At least I'm not the one on a show with a questionable acronym.
Take it back.
No!
Yes.
Oops. Sorry to bother you.
There we go. And thank you, Jaeger. Mr. Miles says, Anti-Trigger, inventing things doesn't make one a scientist. Being on the cutting edge doesn't make one a scientist. He understands material very well. He's well-educated and curious. First of all, you're putting words in my mouth. I didn't say he wasn't a scientist. You said he was a particularly good scientist. I have seen no evidence of this. At least Luke gave me something to work with as far as this potassium thing. I don't know anything about it, but whatever. You know, maybe he is a good scientist. But from what I've seen on his channel, I was not impressed because everything I saw him do, I either knew about already or have seen other people do already. And so him, you know, putting Mentos in Diet Pepsi doesn't mean anything to me. Mr. Mouse says, one example, honest question. Would you say I'm a good editor? If yes, why? Well, as far as your editing skills, I can demonstrate, number one, your improvement over the last few months as far as if I look at the first video you've edited compared to more recent, and by simply showing your work and saying that this is Mr. Miles' original work and this is what he's done. For example, I would very quickly point to the fact that you color corrected Uhura's shirt in that one shot. That was a very, very advanced technique that you pulled off there. I have no idea how you did it, and I will fully admit that I couldn't do that. So, way to go. So that's demonstrably you being a good editor. As far as Thunderfoot being a good scientist, I don't know. I've never seen him do anything that I was like, ooh. You know, if I was talking, like, Dr. Alex, let me tell you, when I talked to Dr. Alex and I asked him a question about quantum singularities for a video a while back, he was able to explain stuff to me that was mind-blowing to me and stuff, and he did a very good job of it. And you know, that showed me his level of knowledge. Thunderfoot sounds like he's teaching 8th grade to me. What are the pins on the collar? They are, I keep grabbing the wrong color. They are pips. They're actually official licensed Star Trek rank pips, but they're probably not positioned right. Luke says, Starfleet calls it science vessels, scout ships, and shuttles, those very names. Meanwhile, they still call their main cruisers starships. Equivalent starship Warbird still holds. Thank you, Luke. Anyway, same can be said true for a good scientist. Well, then show me what he's done that's particularly spectacular, and I will say he's a good scientist. Bam. As I knock stuff over. Darren says, if the Romulan science vessel from the next phase was a warbird, they would have called it a warbird. Okay, Darren, please listen to me for just a moment. Do not comment on the science vessel or the shuttle. Tell me why warbird is not a generic term like starship. Can you do that? If you can't, shut up. Because I don't care. I'm not gonna keep going round in circles with you on this. Alexander, Captain Crunch 2099 would be a revolutionary concept. I kind of doubt that. And then Doc thinks Gilligan's Island. There's no evidence that warbird is the Romulan term for starship. Only warbirds are called warbirds on screen. The rest are called something else. Darren, go back and watch the 3-part episode with the holographic ship. They refer to that ship as a warbird. All right? They also refer to the Derricks, of course, as a warbird. They refer to the... you say that the bird of prey is a warbird. There's, all these Romulan ships are called warbird. And the warbird, by the way, there's also the warbirds from Star Trek Nemesis that are a different class of vessel. About the only ship that came out of the Romulan Empire that, as far as military vessel, that I did not hear called a warbird that I can think of is the Scimitar. But the Scimitar isn't technically a Romulan ship. It's a Riemann ship. So I don't understand your point. Because you know what? Federation shuttlecraft are not called starships. Runabouts are not called starships. You could argue, and I don't know, but I can't think of an example where an Oberth class is called a starship. Right? Don't know about the Nova class. But, so not every ship in the Federation is called starship either. Therefore, warbird and starship are both equivalent terms. They're generic terms. They're not a specific type of ship. And to say only warbirds are called warbirds, that's circular reasoning, my friend. Then I could just as easily say only starships are called starships. All right, so there is Trollitas 499. Thank you. I request that you play your favorite or your son's favorite. All right, so my favorite kind of bounces around from time to time, but actually my absolute favorite, let me see if I can find it. I always lose track of it. I think, is it this one? Yes.
In the great bowl of the Justice League, there floats the world's 4 greatest turds. Created from cosmic indigestion, Super Turd, Wonder Turd, Bat Turd, Aqua Turd, and those 2 junior super turds, Lore Reloaded and Punchy the Wonder Cat.
There we go. All right, so the USS Sandwich is a starship. There you go. Very good. Wow, Darren, you just won't stop. Alexander says we should have Tarzan 20. Wait, no. Darren says, I never said the Romulan ship from Balance of Terror was a warbird. I merely speculated if there's anything should be called, it's a warbird. Okay, whatever. Tim Cry says, should the USS Warbird be a warbird? Good question. Well, hello there, Mr. Friend Buddy. Where did your wonderful messy setup go? Well, it's actually right behind this green screen. Like if I stick my hand under the green screen, it's right there. Maybe he should put a warbird where the sun don't shine. I'm beginning to think so, Alexander. Fandom Menace is in the house. Thank you for joining us, my friend. Says, what do you think about we may be going to war with Mexico drug cartels? What do you think about that? Do we need to do something about them at some point? Well, I think we should be pressuring Mexico to go to war with the freaking drug cartels. How about that? Because it really should not be our job to enforce Mexican law. How about Mexico enforce Mexican law? Wow, that's an amazing concept. Alexander, what does God need with a starship? He doesn't. Burnham's new ship should be called the fertilizer spreader. Then it could be as full of crap as she is. That's true. When is your next paycheck from Anti-Trekker for your very hard work? And boy, you guys are... nobody knew why metals like sodium, potassium, and the likes were exploding in contact with water. The reason is due to a very small fraction of time at which the reaction happens. Okay. Fine. Good for him, then. I didn't know that. I'd love to see the peer-reviewed paper on it. I genuinely would. What does God need with a warbird? I don't think he does. By the way, may I ask what the pins on your collar are? Yes, they are rank pips from Star Trek. Since you helped me make the universe, does that mean you made cable? I helped you make the universe? Stormy Daniel 2099. No. Romulan warships would be called warbirds. It's a generic term. They had class names for different ship classes and roles, but for other powers, it was easier to call them warbirds. Yes, I agree. Mr. Miles says, Enter, but I haven't won any awards. I haven't done anything anyone hasn't done already. So why am I good? All I'm doing is reproducing what others have done. Actually, first of all, Mr. Miles, you are mistaking a skill set with a profession, or, basically, here's the thing. The goal of editing is not necessarily to invent new editors, right? And new or anything like that. Yes, some people have their own very stylized technique. Like if you watch a Stanley Kubrick film, you can see that the way they're edited is very different than, say, you watch a Roman Polanski film. But you're not inventing film. You don't create anything new there. And in fact, that's, the oldest, one of the biggest lies in Hollywood is that there's anything new under the sun when it comes to film. There's not been an original story told in 100 plus years, right? So there's nothing new there. Now, as far as science, very different. Exploring science is the very purpose of science, is to gain new information, to do new things and all that, to expand human understanding. Now, if what Luke is saying is true about the whole potassium thing, great. I don't know what kind of an achievement that is. I would love to see the paper on it. I don't know, anything about. And as far as Thunderfoot winning awards, I don't know crap about that. All right, I've never heard of Thunderfoot getting the Nobel Prize, right? And if he got some award from his college professor, I don't really care. All I'm saying is that I've not been impressed by anything I've seen him do, and the guy is a complete and utter dick anyway, and I have no respect for him because he's a complete and utter dick, and he treats people with contempt when he disagrees with them. And I don't mean like how I'm been kind of mean a little bit here and there with Darren. I mean he treats people with utter disrespect and contempt, like they are not even human. And I have no respect for people with that kind of an attitude. I just don't. As far as his scientific credentials, all I know is that and like I said, I haven't watched his videos in years, don't care. All I know is that he kept saying, I'm a scientist, I'm a scientist, I'm a scientist, and every time he did a science video, it was something utterly unimpressive. If he's actually done these things that Luke is talking about, good for him. Maybe he should have talked about that back a few years ago when he kept saying how he was such a great scientist. But instead, he was doing, 6th grade science experiments and talking about how awesome he is and flying drones around. Anyway, thanks for the entertainment. Got to go to work. All right, Joe, take it easy. Alexander says the triple spaceship were not referred to as warbirds. That's probably true. That is probably true. Darren says the reason why warbird is not the Romulan equivalent of starship is because only the Daredex and Valdor kind are referred to as such. Other Romulan warp-capable ships are not. Again, you completely... Why are you ignoring me, Darren? The holographic ship is referred to as a modified warbird. Do you not understand that, Darren? Are you just going to close your ears? You remind me of a fat lady at a milkshake shop. You're grasping. I'm not grasping at anything. You're not doing anything, Darren. You are wasting time. You are trying to argue that even though most ships in the Romulan Empire are called warbirds, since not all of them are called warbirds, that somehow invalidates the fact that warbird is not a specific type of ship. You are full of crap, Darren. The holographic ship is nothing like the Daenerys. And by the way, the Daenerys is not the Valdor, which means that if the Daenerys and the Valdor are both warbirds, that invalidates your point right there. Because if two completely different warships are called warbirds at the same time by the same empire, then guess what? Warbird does not mean a specific class of ship. End of discussion. You made my point. Thank you. Can you now move on to something else? And yes, Joe, I'm not going to read what you said, but I know. When you are going to sell them, when are you going to sell the movie rights to Super Turtles to Warner Brothers? I'd sell it in a minute. The Walking Dead 2099 could be, no. You know what I would like to see if I was going to do something set in 2099 is really a Birth of the Federation type of show that Enterprise was meant to be. Enterprise was set too late, in my opinion. Benny says, I have no evidence, but it was my understanding that heavy cruisers were called warbirds and light cruisers were scout ships. I don't know if that's true or not, but, you know, the Romulan ship, the whole point of this started because I referred to the Romulan ship in Balance of Terror as a bird of prey. And Darren gets his panties in a bunch over that because of the Klingon bird of prey, which, of course, came many, many years later. However, all the material, all the supporting material, the original scripts, all licensing materials and everything refers to that ship as the Romulan bird of prey. Again, Darren gets his panties in a bunch over it. I don't know why. But that's just something that he can't handle. But whatever. John says even the scimitar is referred to as a Riemann warbird. Is it? I don't remember that, but maybe you're right. Alex says Bernie 2099 would be an amazing concept. No. Bernie will be long dead. He'll probably be dead by 2029. Either way, the massacre was a tragedy. The kids for 10 hours, apparently, and one of them were injured. Oh, yeah. What happened to those people in Mexico was absolutely horrific. And something needs to be done, but I think that we need to hold Mexico responsible, not our own people. So just saying. I think that trying to say that we should be fighting the drug cartels is wrong. What are you doing now, Auntie? You're staring at something. The drug cartel ended the lives of several Americans. Yes, I know. But the thing is that first of all, even if and granted, I know Trump. And I'm not dissing Trump here. Trump cares about those people. He wants something to be done about it. And if he's like, well, you know what? If the Mexicans won't do it, we'll go in. No, the Mexicans need to fix this. And I'm sorry, but all the bloviating that Trump made about forcing Mexico to play the wall by shutting them down, let's shut those mothers down. If they're not going to freaking fight their own drug cartels that are killing Americans, then we say, okay, no more relations with Mexico, no more trade with Mexico. Mexico's economy, what little there is, completely tanks. And so if that happens, then Mexico will get serious. Darren says, I got to check out this Thunderfoot fellow. Oh, you'll love him, Darren. He's almost as dogmatic as you. Thunderfoot probably discovered that Taco Bell results in frequent trips to the loo. Ms. Ross, I agree Thunderfoot is a dick, so don't sink to his level. What you're indirectly saying is that someone thinks he's a good scientist and they're stupid. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying I didn't see anything to support that. I'm saying exactly what he would say about the existence of God. Unless I see evidence that he's a great scientist, I'm not going to say he's a great scientist, right? But all I hear is people say, oh, he's a great scientist. And everything I've seen him do on YouTube, now granted, I haven't been painstakingly following him for years, and I don't talk about him regularly. You guys brought him up. I didn't bring up Thunderfoot. But, when I stopped watching him a couple of years ago, he had not demonstrated to me any kind of great scientist qualities. Yeah, he can be curious. I'm curious. Darren's curious. So what? That doesn't make somebody a great scientist, all right? Now, like I said, if this stuff that Luke is saying about potassium is true, well, that's a feather in his cap. Cool. As far as him winning awards, I don't know anything about him winning awards. You say he did. I haven't seen it. That's where we're at. I'm not saying that you're stupid if you think he's a great scientist. Maybe you've seen evidence that I have not. I'm saying I haven't seen any evidence to indicate he is a great scientist. Phantom says the interesting thing was that only kids survived. Maybe if help arrived sooner, maybe could have survived. I don't know. Yeah. But Darren says you're ignoring my point. You're ignoring mine. I'm not ignoring your point, Darren. Your point is that you're being a dick. That seems to be your point, because you're not making a point. Make your point succinctly and clearly, and I will acknowledge it. But you're not making a point. You're just getting pedantic about whether or not every Romulan ship is called a bird of prey. Get over it. That's not the point of my argument. So you saying that doesn't invalidate my argument. My argument is that bird of prey is a rather generic term for a Romulan ship. It doesn't mean a specific class of vessel. That was my point. That you are trying to counter by saying that this shuttlecraft and this scout ship weren't called birds of prey, although they weren't called anything else, but they weren't called birds of prey. Okay, fine. You want to argue that they're not birds of prey? I'll grant you that much. We can still demonstrate at least 3 distinct ships in the Romulan Navy called birds of prey on screen. 4 if you count the scimitar, according to another person in this chat, but don't recall that one myself. Now, but with the Valdor, the Dederdex, and the holographic ship, all referred to as bird of prey, or as warbird on screen. Therefore, warbird is a generic term. The end. That's it. What, and your counter is what? Thomas says, I'm back. Any movies or shows that aren't Marvel or Star Wars that you're looking forward to on Disney Plus? Yeah, quite a few, actually. There's a lot of the Disney nature documentaries that I'm looking forward to seeing. Some of the classic Disney movies, actually, there's just a ton of them. So, and I've never seen Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Surf says, stop arguing about war turds. You both got me reported for poop speech. Sorry about that. My bad. Don't mince words, Head Checker. What do you really think? Thank you. Let's see. Angry Mango says, Roman Polanski, convicted pedophile who drugged and raped a 13-year-old girl. Anyone with sound moral compass would never watch his films. No more warbirds, night kids. Well, I'll tell you this, and I don't know if you're still here, Angry Mango. I have talked about Roman Polanski quite a few times, and how I think it is absolutely, utterly disgusting that Hollywood still thinks of him as a heroic figure as he lives in exile, his exile living in a freaking mansion. I find Roman Polanski distasteful, disgusting, and a horrible human being. That being said, the reason I mentioned him is because he did have a very distinctive film style, and I've seen some of his films. Most notably, for example, I think Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby is a great horror film. That doesn't change the fact that Roman Polanski was an evil, evil person. Now, let me put it to you this way. I think what Bill Cosby did is right up there with what Roman Polanski did. Horrible. He raped multiple women, and he's serving his time, and I hope he rots in jail. That being said, The Cosby Show is still a great show. So, you know what? Just because Roman Polanski is a disgusting, despicable, I don't even like to call him a human being, doesn't change the fact that Rosemary's Baby is a great film. Tim says, Breath, stop it, Breath, dude. Just stop reading Darren's posts. I'm not, well, here's the thing. I like Darren. I just think he's being stupid on this. Luke says, I've heard of a concept named racism of the intelligence. The idea that some intellectuals are biased by their impression that their intelligence makes them superior. Sound familiar? Yes. I haven't heard of that concept specifically, racism of the intelligence. However, I would agree that some intellectuals, Thunderfoot among them, can consider themselves superior to people that they deem are not as intelligent as them. And that's one of the things I find truly offensive about him, because, you know, I don't have to lose sleep at night wondering about how smart I am, right? I know how smart I am. I've had to take IQ tests for various reasons in the past. And but I don't sit here and brag about my IQ or anything like that. Doesn't matter, because what matters is your intellectual argument, not how many IQ points you have. But some people do consider themselves superior because they have a high IQ, and those people disgust me. So yeah, good point. Alexander says Mr. T 2099 could be a good concept. Wow, Alexander, you are weird tonight. Darren says, Warbird isn't a class of ship, it's a type. Yes, the Romulan drone ship was a modified Warbird, it's true. But that doesn't change the fact that Romulan science scout ships are not. It's... Okay, what is the type of ship that includes the Daredeks, the Valor, or the Valdor, and the Hollow ship? Please tell me what ship that is, because the Hollow ship, I'm sure you remember, is smaller than the freaking bridge module of the Enterprise. So please tell me what type of ship includes a tiny, highly maneuverable, high-speed ship and two of the largest ships that the Empire has ever produced. What single type of ship includes those three? And I will yield to your greatness if you can come up with an answer other than the word Warbird, because Warbird is a circular argument. Give me anything other than that makes sense, and I will apologize to you, assuming that you don't simply agree that it's basically a Romulan warship, which basically means that I am correct, that it's a generic term. Send Kurogans to Mexico. Oh, that's mean to the Mexicans. Admiral Brocode says, I would love to see a movie like Event Horizon, but set in the Star Trek universe. They could help with revitalizing the franchise. Actually, that would could be interesting. And that's where really what Discovery could have been with the Spore Drive and everything, had they done it well. If anything, Warbird is the equivalent of something like battleship or battlecruiser. Okay, so a battleship or battlecruiser includes the smallest ship we've ever seen in combat from the Romulans. Because you do realize, you saw the videos of how small the holographic ship is, minuscule. All right, it's tiny. It's barely larger than a shuttlecraft. It's probably smaller than a runabout. And it is a Warbird, confirmed in Alpha Canon. So please explain. So you really think a battleship or battlecruiser includes the smallest ship in the Romulan Navy? Phantom Menace says, the Mormons have always been at odds with the cartels down both sides, have caused problems for each other, if I remember correctly. I don't know anything about the Mormons and the cartels, but I think that the Mexican government needs to take them seriously. Mr. Miles says, Antricker is Thunderfoot. That's just mean. Mage Grey Wolf says, Thunderfoot has self-proclaimed himself to be an average scientist. Okay, I don't know. I've never seen him do anything spectacular, but Mr. Miles just said he was a great scientist, and that's the only reason that argument started. But quite frankly, I don't give a crap about Thunderfoot. There's simply no evidence that the term Warbird is equivalent to Starship. I gave you the evidence, Darren. A single type of ship that includes the smallest ship ever produced in the Romulan Navy, except for maybe a shuttlecraft, and the largest. The resulting effect would be that to humanize people that they judge to be uneducated, like an elite thinking population is full of idiots. Perhaps Thunderfoot is subject to that. I tend to agree. Or maybe your opinion on what constitutes good scientists isn't universal. I didn't say it was. I'm just saying I haven't seen any evidence, but so what? But I'm not saying you're stupid for thinking he's a good scientist, Mr. Miles. I'm not. Tim said, if you think he's a great scientist, that's your business. I don't give a crap. I do not. Please, Mr. Miles, let me just make this clear. I don't care about Thunderfoot at all. He disgusts me as a human being. Therefore, I'm not interested in talking about him. You think he's a great scientist? I don't care. If you think he's a crap scientist, I don't care. I don't care about him because he is a despicable person in my humble opinion. Now, yes, that's being rather judgmental, but I have had interactions with him in the past. And I'm going from personal experience. I don't care for him. Maybe he's changed, maybe not. I don't care. Darren says, saying that just because it's a given type of ship was not called a Warbird, there's no reason to say it's a Warbird. Stop going back to that, Darren! We're not talking about that. Forget about that. I'm not going to respond to any of that crap. You tell me why the smallest vessel in the Romulan Navy and the largest vessel in the Romulan Navy are both called warbirds and it's not a generic term. Valor says, when is a bird of prey not a bird of prey? When is bird of prey 5? Well, yeah. Vandametta says, it also makes them seem that the cars were right behind each other. They were actually several miles apart from each other. Oh, as far as the news stories on that, I don't know much about the details on that, but like I said, I think that the United States needs to pressure Mexico to enforce the frickin' law. Stuart says, hello, like the new background. Thank you, Stuart. Yes, been experimenting with a green screen here. And so I like it overall, but I do need to rearrange some things because it's a little claustrophobic right now because the screen is like right behind me. Darren says, I can proudly say I've never seen a Roman Polanski film. But unfortunately, I have seen Fat Albert. Well, I haven't seen the Fat Albert film, so there you go. It's a trade-off. And I would guarantee you that you've seen Bill Cosby. You know what? Seeing a Roman Polanski film is not a crime. Some people may find it disgusting to watch a Roman Polanski film because Roman Polanski is a bad person. Well, if you and I'm going to get serious for just a second here, guys, because this is something I want all of you to take into account. If you believe that because an artist, and love him or hate him, Roman Polanski was an artist. Because an artist is a bad person means that it is wrong for you to enjoy their art. If you truly believe that, that's fine. You should never, ever watch a Hollywood film again. Because I guarantee you that someone in that film has said things or done things that you would find despicable. And therefore, every Hollywood film you should never watch again because they're a bunch of horrible people. I think Thunderfoot is one of Antrigger's triggers. No, I just don't care. And you're making a big deal out of it, Mr. Miles. I don't care about him. Why are we talking about him? I do not care. I could not give two craps about Thunderfoot. But someone brought up that I look like, that my hair was similar length to him. Maybe it's similar length to him, but other than that, I have nothing in common with the guy. Stuart says, the Borg didn't give a damn. They were just want your tech and to be a slave to the Borg queen who can't do the job right. Well, here's the problem. In the early days of the Borg just wanted your tech. Then they wanted to assimilate you. Then they had a queen, and that just ruined it. John DeMarco says, I think warbird is a generic term, but possibly not quite as generic as starship. Maybe warbird is equivalent to heavy cruiser, for example. Except that the problem is that, like I said, the warbird that we see in the holographic ship is the smallest ship that we've ever seen the Romulans bring into battle. As opposed to the Derricks and the Valdor are huge, right? And so it's not like you can't just say it's a destroyer or it's a battleship or it's a cruiser because size does, I'm sorry, Darren, in this, and you know this, you are a freaking seaman, size matters. You can't say that the smallest ship in the U.S. Navy and the largest ship in the U.S. Navy are the same type of vessel, unless you're using a generic term like warship or naval vessel. And I think warbird means warship, honestly. But your argumentation is completely pointless because I don't even understand what your point of it is other than to be argumentative. Why? What is your point? Okay, Darren, just tell me what your point is. Tell me whatever it is that you're trying to say is your point. And because I don't understand, I'm really lost. Fine. If I completely concede that warbird only means battleship, even though that's clearly factually incorrect, what is your point? Just that, I wasn't 100% accurate? Because that's not making an argument. That's just trying to, basically create reasonable doubt if we were in court, but we're not in court. I don't know what you're trying to do. So my argument was not 100% flawless. Can you please tell me what your point is? If you can't, please go away. Well, don't go away, but stop. Stop with this argumentation because it's pointless. You are making a pointless argument, and I don't understand why. The type of ship that includes the ship that was modified into the drone ship along with the Derricks and Valdor is a warbird. Yeah, dude! I asked you to not say it's a warbird. A warbird is a warbird is a warbird, blah, blah, blah. Okay, circular reasoning. A starship is a starship. That doesn't change the fact that warbird is not a specific type of ship, because the type of ship could not be, there's not a single type of ship that could possibly include the drone ship and the derricks. It's not freaking possible. And so you're just trying to be coy about it. Stop being a dick, Darren, and give a straight answer. Otherwise, we are done with this discussion, period. BIRDOPREY's in the house, says Kapla. How you doing, Bird? Thomas says, we know who will be the answer about warbirds. Hint, he's fun when he's drunk. Who will know the answer about warbirds? He's fun when he's drunk. Actually, that would be good to get Stuart on this. I think Darren's just playing games, and I agree. The mistake you're making is that the drone ship is a modified warbird. The key word is modified. They didn't strip down the entire freaking ship and leave one little tiny, it was not a derrick ship that they stripped down to the size of a Volkswagen. So shut up and make your point or move on. I'm done, Darren. I am done. You are genuinely beginning to tick me off with it now, because you're just going around in circles for no reason. If you were making a point, I might understand, but you're not making a point. You're just being pedantic and dickish to be pedantic and dickish. So make your point or shut up. Alexander's Paul Abdul 2099 would be a great... Mr. Mouse, Andrew, I use the word great in a very generic sense. Like if I want to highlight that well, great to me means great. It doesn't mean average. Okay? So if you want to call someone a great scientist, hey, Albert Einstein, great scientist. Stephen Hawking, great scientist. Michio Kaku, great scientist, right? Carl Sagan, great scientist. Thunderfoot, I guess he's a scientist. But I have not seen anything to say he's great. Darren, also a heavy cruiser from the you know what? Shut up. When you have something to say, Darren, let me know. Otherwise, I'm done. Almost 200 years between the drone ship. So what? Darren, let's see. Valor says, sorry about the terrible joke. I'm just trying to lighten the mood. No, it's all right, Valor. The Romulan ship argument is starting to give me a headache. How about we talk about the cluster F that's going to be Star Wars Episode 9? We need to change the topic. I agree. Star Wars Episode 9 does... I don't know. The problem is that the trailer looks beautiful, but there's no substance to it whatsoever. And I'm just cringing at the idea that this is going to be another Force or another Last Jedi. If it is, Star Wars is completely dead. However, there's a chance that it'll be good. And then we have The Mandalorian as well. And will The Mandalorian be any good? I don't know. Resolute says, you're getting pretty damn pissy for someone who doesn't care. Well, it's just annoying because, here's the thing. I don't, when we're talking about two topics that honestly are completely pointless. And Luke donated €2, says, I modified my book. Now it looks like a super chat. Not sure what you mean, Luke. I really am not sure what you mean. But Resolute, as far as getting pissy about, here's why the reason I'm a little pissy about it. I don't give a crap about Thunderfoot, and honestly, Darren is just being a dick. And I know he's just trying to yank my chain, and it's succeeding. Good job, Darren. You trolled me, okay? Yay, you. But and he's making a completely pointless and irrelevant argument. And I really find pointless and irrelevant arguments to be pointless and irrelevant and annoying. That's the thing. If Darren was making a genuine point, I would be okay with that. If there was some point to why we're arguing about Thunderfoot's scientific credentials, fine. I don't care about Thunderfoot's scientific credentials, and I certainly don't, care about Darren's calling hey, warbird is just a warbird argument, because that means absolutely nothing, and he just doesn't want to admit that he was wrong about the fact that warbird is a generic term. Fine. He wants to think that somehow a ship that is maybe 20, 30 meters across is the same type of ship as a ship that's over 1,000 meters, then he's freaking insane. And he wants to say it's modified. Yes, and they specifically talked about the modifications. They didn't modify the ship's size, they modified the ship's systems. But Darren doesn't care about details like that. All he cares about is the fact that since they didn't call the shuttlecraft a warbird, not every Romulan ship is a warbird, therefore I'm wrong, therefore he's right, even though it doesn't logically follow. He's making a pointless argument. And he knows it. The problem is he won't admit it, and he won't make a substantive argument. Instead, he's just going to continue to make pointless arguments. So, Darren, make a point or don't. The Flintstones would be in. No, the whole point of the Flintstones, Alexander, is that it takes place in the Stone Age. That makes no sense. Stuart says, "Who is the Borg Queen? Star Trek Discovery made her." No. Gee, I'm glad that didn't happen. Fandom Menace says, "I'm sorry if I'm angry with my news story." No, you're not making me mad about the news story. Here's the thing though, Fandom. I don't want to talk about politics on this channel that much. I agree that something needs to be done about what happened in Mexico. I do. However, no, I'm not going to get you on Skype to have you explain it to me, Darren, because you're just going to keep saying the same thing you've been saying, and it's pointless. No. If you want to make an actual point, make an actual point. If you're not going to make an actual point, then we're done. Okay? The fact remains that the smallest ship in the Romulan Navy and the largest ship in the Romulan Navy are both called warbirds. End of discussion. Warbird is a generic term. It does not mean a specific type of ship. Get over it. It's not that big a deal. Even if the holographic ship was a larger ship, all three ships that we know, and possibly 4, and possibly 5, and possibly 6, and possibly 7 ships that are all warbirds, they're not the same ship. It's not one type of ship. But you can't get past that. You're just so obsessive with it. And I don't know why. It doesn't matter. But no, I'm not going to get you on Skype to have you tell me the same thing you've been saying in chat. But anyway, Phantom Menace, back to what you're saying. The news story itself, you bringing it up doesn't anger me as much as I just don't want to get into the political thing. You know, people say you're pro-Trump, anti-Trump, whatever. That's not what this channel is about. And as tragic as what happened in Mexico is, that is not what this channel is about. This is not a news and current events channel. This is a nerd channel. And that's the thing. I would rather argue with Darren about warbirds all day than talk about Trump and the Mexican border. I'll be completely honest with you. If we're on the Rational Roundtable channel, then sure, we'll talk about it. Same thing with the Thunderfoot thing, by the way. I don't like that we digressed into the Thunderfoot conversation either, because we're on the wrong channel for that.
Hello, world.
And Admiral Brocode puts $10 into the channel. Thank you so much. Says, "I race vodka and Red Bull t-shirt. Live long and prosper. Super Chat dealer's choice." Ooh, goody. Let me go to... I'll put Alexander's favorite on.
The Borg vessel's moving into range.
On screen.
Let's get lost in that magic place all alone now. Drink a fill from my fountain of love, wet your lips. I'm a man, I'm a teaser, I'm a man, well I'm a virgin, I'm a man, I'm a one-night stand, a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a dream, I'm a dream divine, make love together.
He's dead.
All right. By the way, Wesley Crusher, I don't know if you are in this chat right now, but can you please not be a dick in Space Engineers, please? You know what I'm talking about. I got a message from Chris about what you were doing today. Please stop. All right. If somebody's in the safe zone, respect it. All right. Don't try to push them out of the safe zone so you can kill them. Anyway, Mr. Brown says, Darren's point is, why do you hate First Contact so much? That's your best comment of the night, Mr. Miles. Stuart says, for me, when I see Star Trek and when I hear Warbird, I look for the artwork that was on the ship. If I remember correctly, it was a two-headed bird. Well, on all the Romulan ships, you know, and that was kind of the point, and what started the whole thing with Romulan ships is that they are painted like a great bird of prey. That's the whole thing. But then the Romulan ship from Balance of Terror was referred to as a bird of prey all the way up through very recently. This apparently became a thing where some people like Darren get their panties in a bunch over it. And because the Klingon bird of prey came around, and then people want to say, oh, but the Klingon, you know, retcons count. So the Klingons have birds of prey before the Romulans, but the Romulans did have birds of prey back then, but they didn't, but they did, but they didn't, but then there are warbirds, but warbirds are all sorts of different ships, so it can't mean that that's the type of ship. It really, we go around in circles on this. The simple fact is, it's unfortunate that the writers made the mistake in Star Trek III that they did by calling the Klingon ship a bird of prey. Kuroga makes crash birds. That is very true. The Kuroga crash bird is their most efficient ship. Zabe says, love your channel. Thunderfoot, keep it up. Okay, thank you, Zabe. And welcome. I don't know if I've seen you before, so if you are new, welcome. Let's see. Part of the problem is that I have so many characters to work with here, but since you told me to shut up, I think I'll take your name. What characters? You're not talking about characters. You're talking about ships. Those aren't characters. Maybe you... Whatever. But Darren, make a genuine point. And if you're going to leave, that's fine. But if you want to make a genuine point, I'm open to that. The problem is you're just going around in circles saying that you're not 100% right, therefore you're wrong. There's, you know, I know you seem to have a difficult time with this, Darren, but there are gradations, right? Just because someone is not 100% right, if they're 75% right, you could still say they make a valid point, all right? You can admit that. It's okay for you to not always win the argument, but I understand. Just like, you know, I told you I would actually concede, and I have conceded in multiple times in the past, that you're right. They don't actually call the Romulan bird of prey from the original series a bird of prey. So canonically, you can argue that that's not what it is. But to try and suggest warbird is the way you are, I don't understand. Just like with the honor thing. You're dead wrong about the honor thing, and you know it, but you won't admit it. Even though the Romulans behave honorably from the beginning of Trek to the end of Trek for the most part. Yes, there are some dicks in the Romulan Empire, but guess what? There are some dicks in the Federation, too. And that doesn't change the fact that overall the Romulans behave honorably in Trek. And yet you cannot seem to admit that. The only reason the Queen was created for the Borg was so stupid people can see an adversary in the movies. I know, and that is an absolute shame because that ruined the Borg. More than any one thing, the Queen absolutely ruined the Borg. So there's Luke's €2 saying, I modified my book. It now looks like a super chat. I have no idea what you're talking about still, Luke. I hope you put a comment in to explain what you're talking about. And Alexander says Hulk Hogan is a great scientist. Those scientists you listed, I would put as outstanding, awesome, and so on. I'd have to say great day. I'd say I had a great day just when it went smoothly. Well, that you misunderstand the meaning of the word great. And that's actually, and by the way, Mr. Miles, I'm not picking on you here, but this is a common problem with younger generations. They don't understand that words mean things. Great does not simply mean passable. Great does not simply mean good. Great is supposed to be something you say for something spectacularly awesome. But we've lost the meaning of the word great for some reason. Great in and of itself is something that is supposed to be the pinnacle of whatever it is. So to say someone is a great scientist is not saying that they managed to graduate from school and they can do a few passable experiments and they came up with a decent theory that got them their PhD, right? That doesn't make a great scientist. That just makes someone a scientist. Episode 9, aka LOL. Yeah, no kidding.
Hello, world.
Let's see. The holoship was larger than it seems, about half the length of the NX nacelle. Let's take a look. And by the way, John Araki just threw 99 cents in. Thank you so much, John. Let me take a look, Surf. Let me see if I have the footage handy that I sent to Mr. Miles. because I think that we get a good perspective on the actual size of the ship in that footage. Where is it? Under Miles videos.
Previously on Enterprise.
All right, let's take a look here. All right, so this is, I just realized that that's like all wacky there. I wonder why. That's weird. The green screen doesn't, oh, maybe you just need to change the settings for it a little bit. Maybe. Now that's a little better. And there. All right. Sorry, just wanted to tweak that a little bit. All right, so let's take a look at this.
From what I've
All right, so there's the drone ship.
heard about,
There's the Enterprise NX. All right, so we know the drone ship is in front of the NX here.
ones they mean business.
I would dare say that suggesting that it is half
Previously
the
on
length
Enterprise.
is a little bit of an exaggeration.
From what I've heard about these,
Because the Roman ship in this
ones
shot never passes behind the ship. It's still substantially in front. It's and from force perspective, it's about half the length of the nacelle right here. Yet you can tell that it is still quite a distance away from the Enterprise. I would argue that this ship is roughly the size, and I hope you can see my mouse pointer here, that this ship is roughly the size of the bridge module of the Enterprise itself. I think that that's the approximate scale here. At the most, if you argued that it was half the size of the nacelle of the ship, that's still a tiny ship, okay? And yet it can outrun and outgun Andorian ships. It can outrun and outgun the NX-01, not to mention its advanced holographic technology. This is the single most badass ship ever built by anyone, apparently, and yet the Romulans abandoned it because one of them got broke. Let's see. You realize you're constantly 3 chats behind Darren. I know. That's because Darren, what he should do is put a response and then wait for me to get to it before he puts in another response, but he doesn't do that. Ryan Rains is entry. Here's a new topic. I believe that sci-fi is taking the natural laws of our universe to the fullest extent, and fantasy is the ability to break those rules even if you choose not to. Well, fantasy, I think it's more a matter of priority. True science fiction, like Trek is supposed to be, and I say supposed to be because Discovery falls woefully short in that respect. But true science fiction should set a set of established scientific rules that it follows. Now, you can create things for the sake of story that violate the rules of our current understanding of physics, such as in Star Trek, warp drive, or phasers, or transporters, which they create these things in order to get around story problems, right? You can't, if you have to do 100% realism, then all of Star Trek would have to take place within our solar system. But, and even then it would take months to get from one place to another. But that being said, so they come up with these things within their universe. Once you establish the rules, you have to follow them. Fantasy is not about the science. It's not about the technology. It's not about the what if we come up with X, Y, or Z. Fantasy, the whole purpose of it is to wish fulfillment. Is the idea of, being the brave Jedi Knight, right? That kind of thing. And fantasy, so, it doesn't matter. And I know that there are people that argue about this stuff, but it's stupid because if you look at the scientific stuff about Star Wars, it makes no sense, right? It's all magic crystals and the Force. That's all fine and dandy because it's fantasy. It's not about trying to be realistic about anything. And that's why sometimes we run into problems when we try to argue about Star Wars and Star Trek because, like when they try to say that a blaster fires 17 gigatons of force or whatever, which is ridiculous and just goes to show that the people that design the fantasy don't know what the hell they're talking about when it comes to the science. So that's my thoughts on that, Ryan. Luke says, I turned book type into a super chat type. I modified it. Ah, okay, very good. Do you care about MCU Aunt May naked? Not particularly, honestly, Alexander, because MCU Aunt May will never be naked. I genuinely wondering what class of mining ship will be classified once it was altered. Is it what class the mining ship would have classified once it was altered? Is it a warship or still a civilian ship? If you're talking about the Narada from Star Trek 2009, that's actually an interesting question. The Narada was a mining ship modified, if you look at the Countdown comics, with Borg technology, which I think will be a key factor in the Picard series. But the was the Narada a warship or a civilian ship? I would say a little of each. I mean, because it was still crewed by a civilian crew. Nero was never commissioned in the Romulan Navy. Eric says, that's one thing I liked about the ships of the Merchant Marines. Even a lot were decommissioned Navy vessels. We didn't have to contend with the ship classes outside of sea. Did not know that. Cargo ships, cargo ships and trawlers. Gotcha. If you calculate the stated time it would take for Voyager to get home, it matches with the TOS warp scale, with the TNG era warps 10 being infinity. The problem with the TOS and TNG warp scale, though, is that the TOS warp scale goes beyond warp 10. And we've seen in TOS ships measured beyond warp 10. So for some reason that we don't know, at some point it seems like they said, well, warp 9, and then we're just going to have this exponential thing to where warp 10 equals infinity for reasons, which I don't like it. There's Admiral Broco's $10. Thank you again, my friend. I truly appreciate it. Game of Thrones $20.99 would be you see, here's the problem, Alexander. You're mixing your genres now, because science fiction and sword and sorcery fantasy really don't mix. Star Wars is the exception that proves the rule. Cinnamon says, angry Trekker. Yeah, I'm a little... and I think part of it, honestly, is because the leg is bothering me. Luke says, same thing here. You can choose a super chat. All right, let's put on... let's do my favorite. There you go. Josh says Antrigger's pro STD. Definitely not. By the way, guys, I'm going to have to wrap it up pretty soon. Just saying, Mrs. Antrekker just got home, and like I said, my leg has been killing me. Let's see. Antrekker, you might have need one of your subs with that super chat video. Not sure what you mean. I think we found you. I think we found your Sinatra and Freddie Mercury. Now, honestly, well, the Warbird thing got me a little worked up, I admit, but it's just because it's not the topic that's got me. So bring up Warbirds is not going to immediately set me off. It's the fact that Darren just won't listen to reason on it. That and that's my only problem with it. I don't have a problem with someone taking the position that, okay, Warbird is a specific type of ship. But then when you demonstrate that the smallest ship in the Romulan Navy and the largest ship in the Romulan Navy are both Warbirds, you can no longer say the Warbird is a specific type of ship. So now, what are you going to say? And so he says, well, it's a type of ship called the Warbird. That's a non-argument. That's circular reasoning at best. In Space Engineers, they update to make the new drone ship. In Space Engineers, there is an update that makes the new drone ship that would kill you in a safe zone head up. Oh, great. That's just what we need. What is the best looking lightsaber in your mind, and what color and design would you like to see in Episode 9? I don't care about it. I really don't. The superficial stuff as far as double-bladed, single-bladed, bent handle, straight handle, I don't care. I just want a good story. I really don't care about what kind of lightsabers they put in it. I want a good story. That's all I want. What if it's a Warbird class Warbird, like a Starship class Starship? Oh boy, then we're going to get into some massive problems. But yeah, that's the funny thing is because, of course, originally Starship was specifically the Constitution class vessel, but then it expanded to mean pretty much every Federation ship. Sorry, I meant to ask the Romulan mining ship from JJ Trek. No, that's what I figured you meant. But I would say that it is a civilian ship that was retrofitted by the military in a desperate ploy to try and, you know, wreak havoc for some reason. People don't enough to park ships in safe zones to deserve to get pushed out. All right, sir. First of all, that's not what was going on, because you can't park ships in the safe zones in the current game, unless, at least I don't think you can. You shouldn't be able to, unless there's a problem with it. What if something is a battlecruiser type, battlecruiser class named battlecruiser? Mr. Miles, now you're just getting stupid. Piano Dean says, yeah, if anything great, and if everything's great, then nothing's great. Exactly, Piano Dean. Great means something. And so, and I'm not, again, Mr. Miles, I wasn't trying to pick on you, but yeah, don't use the word great for average. Please. That is a pet peeve of mine. Please don't. Because great means great. Great does not mean, eh. I think a lot of these Romulan, and that's why, by the way, like when I'm rating, let me put it this way, when I'm grading a movie, like if I'm giving you a score out of 10, right? A score of less than 5 means the movie was poor. A score of 5 means the movie was average. A score of 5.5 through 8 means it was good. A score of 8 through 10 means it's great. That's my scale.
Hello.
Darth Sweeney puts £2 in. Thank you, Darth Sweeney. I truly appreciate it. It says, I hope the knee is getting better. Sadly, the opposite is kind of true. My knee, it's not the knee itself. The knee is actually healing, but the nerves between my knee and my hip are not. So I still can't move my leg, and the doctor is concerned there may be some nerve damage. We're doing some testing in a couple of weeks. That's where I'm at right now. I think a lot of these Romulan ship designs came from espionage with the Federation and the Klingons in later years. And the Enterprise era Romulan ship had the basic design we could recognize, but the design evolved to become the more Federation looking by the time TOS occurred. Actually, I disagree, Darth Maul. I think that Enterprise and TOS take place in 2 distinct timelines. And that video, I don't know, Mr. Miles, if it'll be ready tomorrow, but that video is going to be a great video. And I will tell you, Mr. Miles has done some great work on that video. And no, I am not saying that that it was passable. I mean, it's really good. So I think you're going to like it. Did you hear all the rumors about episode 9 entry? I think it's fascinating to hear about them. At some point, most of the rumors may have been true. I don't know if yeah, I've heard some of the rumors, but I've been kind of staying away from it because, quite frankly, a lot of the rumor and speculation about it, I just want it to be good. I truly do. It probably won't be, but that's what I want. And I'm going to hope that it is right up to the last minute. Luke says, based on your description, Discovery is fantasy. You're very true. And that's the biggest problem. Well, that's one of the biggest problems with Discovery is that they forgot that it's supposed to be science fiction. Valor says, I watched Lore's older vid on the NX class that he did a while back ago, and on Lore was fair, but on the new one I told you about, he's so harsh, it's like the NX kicked his puppy. Yeah, I actually downloaded both of those videos. I'm thinking about doing a full-on response to it, because I think that he contradicts himself, but more importantly, I mean, here's the thing. He's basically insulting the ship because the Federation wasn't as advanced as other races. Okay. That's like saying that, Empire Strikes Back sucked because Luke should have been able to beat Vader. Also, based on your description, The Lord of the Rings is not fantasy. Well, I would disagree. The Lord of the Rings is high fantasy. It's basically, high fantasy is almost like, when we say science fantasy for Star Wars, I would say high fantasy is almost like saying almost reverse science fiction in a fantasy era. When TNG came about around, it was far more green and similar to Klingons after their war, but they seem to incorporate Federation influence too. Well, it's like I said, Darth, I think that we have multiple timelines here. Mr. Wolverine's taken off. Have a good one if you haven't left already. I know it's a few minutes ago. And again, guys, I am going to need to wrap up in just a minute here, so I apologize if I don't get to your chat. So, yeah. I just got a message. YouTube TOS going to be changed December 10th. Yes, I have it on one of my browsers. I haven't read it all yet, but yeah. The Narada was a civilian mining ship, but good future tech and weapons made it appear to be a warship in the past. True. I will try not to talk about the news ever, I guess, on your channel. It's hard for me, but I will do my best. It's not that you can never, ever, ever mention the news. It's just that I don't want to make it a main topic kind of thing. The REDNEK was the largest ship of their fleet, as was the Galaxy class, but in fact was far larger than the Galaxy class. That's also true. Space horses that all are going to die if the ship tilts a little. Yeah, that's a thing. When is Anticon happening? We're going to meet and get autographs of BIRDOPREY, Mr. Miles, Lauren, the great Mrs. Antiker. That would be actually a lot of fun, and I hope to, honestly, if this channel ever grows to, like, Nerdrotic status, we may pull something like that off. And there's our Sweeney Super Chat. Thank you again. Great means MCU and stay naked. Star Wars fans give us Star Wars fan give us Y wings and B wings. Well, they were good. But unfortunately, the new Star Wars, not so much. All right, so I actually did manage to get all the main chats done. Thank you guys for putting up with me this time. I know that I was very feisty. It's honestly just because I really freaking hurt right now. Darth Maul says, look forward to the video about Enterprise being an alternate timeline since the writers said they plan future seasons to realign the series to canon, but since on-screen is canon. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. Plans are one thing, but they never did it. That's the problem. All right, guys. Take her easy, have a good one, and remember that Kuroga is evil. They just are.
Let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, you got mud on your face, you big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, singing, we will love you. It's true, Mr. Miles. Frank Sinatra and Freddie Mercury were man-on-man lovers. Buddy, you're a young man, hard man, shouted in the street, gonna take on the world someday. You got blood on your face, you big disgrace, waving your banner all over the place, singing, we will love you. You son of a bitch, anti-tracker! You take that back! You take that back right now! He said that Frank Sinatra and Freddie Mercury were not man-on-man lovers.